my partner in crime, as always, Chris Newhart.
Happy blessed day.
And we have a very special guest today. We have Michael Lasky, one of the great Power Rangers. Well, he's a hero in all kinds of ways, but he started out as a Power Ranger and went from there. So, Mike, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. I'm very pleasured to be here, so thank you.
Heck yeah, it's awesome having you here.
We can brag to our kids we know a Power Ranger.
There you go.
Oh yeah,
That's how it works.
A real Power Ranger, a real martial artist.
There we go.
You didn't just act as a martial artist, but you actually learned it and teach it, and I can't wait to delve into that a little bit more.
We'll get there. So, Mike, how did it all begin? Like, where'd you grow up?
Well, I mean, I was born in Hawaii to a Green Beret on a military base, and for some, I don't even know how we ended up in Los Angeles, California. And obviously, you know, my dad, being the Green Beret that he was, his boy was going to know how to fight. So he got me involved in different styles of martial arts. And I mean, really, the whole acting thing started as a result of martial arts because I was doing that and getting really good at tournaments. I was like a 6-time junior world jiu-jitsu throwing champion.
Wow.
You know, at the age of 6 years old, I was competing with 13-year-olds because there just
Really?
wasn't a weight class or an age class that young.
Yeah.
So we lied about my age and we competed against older people. And, you know, in the early 90s, when you're winning that many competitions in martial arts, that obviously, and in that area of Los Angeles, people are like, hey,
Who's this
you know,
guy?
you know, karate movies are very big, you know what I mean? Like, you should get into action films. And that's kind of how that happened, is that I just started making a name on that tournament circuit, and then people were like, hey, did you ever think about getting into acting and action films and stuff like that? And I eventually got an agent and started going on auditions and landed Power Rangers, Three Ninjas, all that stuff.
So, when did you start martial arts?
I don't even. Gosh, I it's one of the more frequent questions that I get, and it's a question that I feel bad about not being able to answer. I don't remember a time that I wasn't in martial arts. That's how young I started.
So, like, even at 3, you were probably doing some kind of
I would
martial arts.
imagine. I don't know. My dad has been saying I've been kicking since I can walk. So. There's never been a time in my life where I haven't been learning or doing or studying martial arts. So it's some of my earliest memories. I don't remember my first words, but I remember my first belt. So
Wow. and at 6 years old, you're throwing down with 13-year-olds?
yeah. So
Wow.
at 6 years old, I was chucking people against you know the 12 to 13 bracket, because that was how early they started them back then. Now, you know, martial arts is such a huge thing that they'll start them really early. They've got age brackets going down into, like, you know, 5 years old or whatever.
Right.
But you know, growing up in the early 90s, you know, there was no market for kids chucking each other around. So,
I took martial arts for like 2 years when I was a kid, and I loved it. I loved taking it, but I'm not going to beat anybody up. So yeah, I didn't last long.
well, you know, you'd be surprised. I mean, martial arts is never about beating anybody up, anyway.
Exactly.
So.
I'm joking. Well, that's cool. So then, 6, and then, so when was your first belt?
God, I got my. Oh man, I lied. That was a shtick that I pulled, and it totally backfired on me. I don't remember when I got my first belt either. I know I got my first black belt at the age of 12 in the same year. I got 2 black belts in approximately the same amount of time. One in Tang Sudo from my father, who had studied that martial arts before, and then Koryo Taekwondo, which was it's just like a kicking-based martial arts, Olympic Taekwondo, at the age of 12, in about the same year. So that's like the first big, like, date that I know. But you know, belts. If you're studying martial arts in a broad sense, in the way that I do, which is like, I love them all, like all comers, you know, bring it in. I don't care if it's applicable or if it's unapplicable. I'm curious about it. I love. One of my favorite things about martial arts is it allows you to really kind of explore somebody else's culture and their way of life in a way that that interests me. You know, I think it's a great way to learn how people live. So there are so many different belts that my first one, it's just not a carrying memory, but your first black belt, I think, is something that you take forever. So.
Well, I feel a lot better because Tang Sudo is what I took for 2 years.
Oh, there you go.
I feel better now, yeah.
It's a good one, a Korean-based martial art.
I remember the stance, and that's about it. That's
Well, I mean, hey, at least you can fake it. I mean,
exactly.
especially in today's Hollywood days, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember going on auditions all the time. Being as educated in the martial arts as I was, even at that age. And there were just so many posers down in the early 90s.
Oh, right.
And because there was no internet and there was no way to check up on people, you could just be like, hey, you know what? I was a black belt. Look at this stance. And they're like, yeah, he looks like a black belt. So, sold. Got him. So, I mean, in the early 90s, man,
I probably could have been an action hero.
Exactly. You could have been, man.
Not.
But instead you draw them.
Yeah,
Right?
I said I draw them instead.
With that, what's some advice that you give to people that are trying to follow in your footsteps, whether it's to become an actor or into martial arts and better their craft?
You know, I think like everybody's individual journey is so just independent that it's hard for me to be like, hey, this is what you need to do to be successful in any given thing. I think always the best advice is just to live authentically and to actually do the work. Right. Some of the more common questions that I get about, getting into fighting or getting into acting is like, what's like the number one piece of advice? The number one piece of advice is just to love it and do it.
Right.
I think a lot of people get into acting or MMA because they are interested in being famous or known for something and not because they actually love that thing. And I think that's what comes off as very disingenuous to people whom they're looking to impress. But if you actually love the craft of acting, then, I mean, my best advice is to take acting classes, do local theater, be awesome at the local level and then work your way up. I think everybody is just, especially from an acting perspective, they're like, all right, well, I need to get famous like now.
Now, exactly.
Right?
We watched
And that's not how it works.
a great documentary about it. It was Wayne Gretzky, Jerry Rice, and Pele from soccer.
Yeah.
And they were talking about, Wayne Gretzky. Like everybody comes up to me, how many kids? How young should my kids start? Practicing 3 hours a day. How many hours did you practice to become the greats? He's like, no, my dad let me be a kid.
Yeah.
He's like, when hockey was done, we ran right to baseball, and I played like I was in the World Series and all this stuff. And he goes, when people went to the movies, I was outside shooting pucks for 2 hours because that's what made me happy. And I think you have to do that with kids, especially now. Everybody's so driven. Oh, my kid's got talent. I'm going to jam you into this. And they even said in the documentary that most kids, they're so structured now. They don't even have freedoms. Like a convict on death row has more freedoms than some of these kids do anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they're so structured. And you got to let a kid be a kid and let them, develop their own passions and what they want to do and be great at what they love. Exactly.
Well, and I grew up in the heyday of that mindset, especially, when you grow up in the Hollywood acting scene as a child actor.
That's got to be rough.
There's a lot of parents that are very, very much over domineering, right. And they really direct. And at some point, that's important, right? Because you're just a child. You're not going to direct the cause of your own career. Right. But so the parents do have a lot to do with that. But at the same time, I think the important part is building the passion for something. And then once the passion is there, then the child kind of does all the practicing and everything on their own. And that's the important thing for me as like a martial arts mentor now, trying to pass the kind of idea of martial arts on to the next generation, is my goal isn't to create like, I've said this before, but like the next child star, the next MMA champion, if you do that, you're going to eventually create a child, in my opinion, that hates martial arts.
Right.
And that's definitely not what I want, right? So my goal is to really like reach a child in the things that they like and apply it to the things that they like. And I think about, what I was, or the things that inspired me as a kid. Like I loved Bruce Lee, I loved Jackie Chan, and even going into martial arts, like that's the kind of stuff that I wanted to be. And going into acting, that's what motivated me. Even if the set days were long and I didn't want to necessarily do something, I definitely really enjoyed those like ideological mentors of mine. And that's being in a new position in my adult life, kids are still empowered by Power Rangers, still
Right.
empowered by Three Ninjas, still empowered by MMA. So what I do with my martial arts studio is really work on just kindling the fire more
Right.
so than pouring gasoline all over it, right?
Right.
And then I think when kids really find out that they love martial arts, then they're the type of person to go outside, like Wayne Gretzky was saying, is, hit pucks for 3 hours because they're not being forced to. They just really want to get good because
Right.
they're impassioned by it.
And they love the sport.
Yeah.
Now that's really cool because, like you're a big, martial arts guy, and you want to give them the culture, the beauty of the martial arts
Right.
first and foremost, which is great because you're not trying to, like you said, turn them into a kid star or anything. But if they have the passion for it, yeah, they'll find their own way, right?
Yeah, and maybe one day they will become MMA superstar John Jones 3 times over, Conor McGregor, awesome sauce.
Right.
That could be cool
Yeah.
if that happens. But all of that starts somewhere,
Right.
and there's probably a better coach that's going to make them Conor McGregor.
Right.
But I think that I could have the next Conor McGregor in my grasp right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, speaking of which, you have a school. Could you tell people a little bit more about that and what that entails and what you teach? And
Oh yeah, I mean my martial arts school is in Pleasant Grove, Utah. I have another private academy in Burbank, California as well. And basically, it's called OMA Ranger Academy, Olasky Martial Arts Ranger Academy.
Nice.
RangerAcademyUtah.com if you want to look. Shameless
We'll put
plug.
all your links up for sure.
Perfect.
Yeah,
So basically my goal is just to kind of inspire kids to get started in martial arts with my acting background. Every kid wants to be a Power Ranger. Every kid wants to be a superhero, right?
I know I did.
I still want to be.
Still do, right?
I still want to be.
You'd be surprised how many calls I get. They're like, "Do you teach adults?" And I was like, "Oh, we just started it." I started this academy thinking it would just be all kids because that's my passion. And there's just been so many people that are like, "You need to teach adults too." So we just started an adult kickboxing class as well.
Oh, wow.
I'm down.
For real, I didn't say when and
Right down
when.
there.
I was trained by a Power Ranger, okay, let me tell you.
So the goal is pretty much just to get kids excited about martial arts through my past acting experience and the fact that I was a fictional superhero for a while, and then and use that as a for lack of a better term, a bait and switch, and we teach them all like the hard work ethic and the love of martial arts that it takes to become a 5-time mixed martial arts champion. So. I kind of got the best of both worlds, and I'm in a unique situation like that where I was like, I'm a fictional superhero, and then I also actually put in the work to become a champion mixed martial arts fighter, so why not put those hands together into a love sandwich and see if we can create some good experiences for some
You are a
of the
real
kids.
For
superhero.
real?
For real. You're gonna learn how to say that a lot from Chris.
For real.
For real, yeah. We always joke around about that. So, how old are you when you get into the Power Rangers?
The first time I was in Power Rangers was in season 2. They did like a first 2-parter episode in season 2, and I want to say I was 11 years old when I did that first 2-parter. And then that first 2-parter did really well, and they were looking to kind of like expand the mythos of Power Rangers. Really what it came down to is they were running out of the Japanese footage that they can reuse, so they needed to use some other stuff. So they came back to us, and they basically shrunk the Power Rangers down to little kids again in season 3 for like a whole contractual season. And I got to play the Red Power Ranger for an entire season after that 2-parter. So I want to say I was probably 11 years old the first time, maybe 12, leaning towards 13 the second.
So that's happening all quick. I mean, 6 to like probably when you were 14 or 15, probably just went like that. Huh?
Yeah, I mean I was auditioning a lot. I got a lot of commercials and stuff when I started acting. Power Rangers was my first like big list item that you can really parlay off of, and eventually I'm sure that's what helped me book Three Ninjas. I mean, we all are some of our own experiences. So,
Right.
you know, everything that you do in the past really helps what you do in the future.
What was that like being a kid on set and kind of growing up on set and then progressing from a TV show to a movie set? Like
It's a, yeah. I mean, it's a unique experience. It's funny because like when you're a kid, you really only know your own experiences,
Right.
and that's what real life is. It's only when you kind of grow into an adult and look at things on hindsight, and you talk to other people about it, and you realize I was like, oh, well, not everybody went to school on set, not everybody, you know, was on major television shows. That you realize how special and different it is.
Every kid
right?
does this, right?
Well,
Yeah.
it's true,
It's
and you
easy.
know, it sounds silly, but like most of my life experience as a kid was interacting with other kids who were in the acting business too. So like
Right.
we'd be on set together, we'd be on auditions together. So for me, my whole cultural experience is this is what most kids did.
Right.
And it's only, you know, when you get into the real world as an adult where you're like, oh wow, this is actually a pretty unique and interesting experience. With that being said, though, one of the most interesting things to me looking back in hindsight about Power Rangers is that, you know, Power Rangers was like the biggest thing in the world.
Oh, it's huge.
In the world. It was like #1 even for like adult television shows or something like that.
yeah, didn't Hasbro sell it for like $500 million
Yeah,
or something?
ridiculous, right? Ridiculous. It was so big.
Well, you know what's funny is that I actually know the guy that marketed here for the U.S. Rand Brenner. Yeah, you don't know me very well.
Hey,
I know you,
hey.
but I still get your newsletters on my
Right.
emails. But yeah, I met him, and but the crazy thing about it though is that it was Japan, right? Originally.
Yeah,
Okay.
originally, yeah, the whole show was a Japanese show, and then they kind of just reshot the out of costume scenes for an American audience, and that's what really, I mean, made it go gangbusters. Was that it had a lot of the action footage already shot, so they didn't have to pay to do it.
Exactly. So they reused all the old Japanese stuff, and then they had like you guys in high school or whatever, grade
Right.
school,
Yeah.
and then you became the Power Rangers and stuff. Now, did they? I'm just asking for my own. Did they? That's how they marketed around the world. So then they do it in different. Would they do it in different countries with their own different set of Power Rangers, or?
You know, I think that they had the opportunity to do that, but the more I hear about it, I don't think that that's what they actually ended up doing. I think what you know, kind of the funny thing is what happens in America goes everywhere.
Exactly.
You know,
Mhm.
so I think that might have been the idea going into it was just like, hey, we'll just rebrand this for each individual market, but it just blew up so much here that, you know, the American Power Rangers is what everybody knows, even more so than the Japanese one, which is silly.
Right.
It's like the origin of it, right?
Exactly. So do you get a lot of stuff from other countries where you guys get dubbed? So they're using the American version, and then you see
Yeah.
everybody doing your voice different.
Yeah, that happens. That happens a lot. I'm surprised when I see myself on screen. I was like, oh, I speak Spanish, Italian, Chinese. It's amazing. I didn't know that. I didn't know my voice sounds like that when I speak Italian. It's deep, but okay, cool.
It's probably some 40-year-old guy.
Right, smoking cigarettes,
Yeah.
smoking cigarettes and drinking wine in a sound booth. He's a Morphin time. I'm like, wow, sound like a film noir. That's awesome.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it.
It's good stuff.
So then you go into Three Ninjas, right?
Right.
And so that was that during Power Rangers or after?
No, it was significantly after Power Rangers. I mean, obviously, you know, being a child actor, you audition several times a day for just tons of stuff that you get and you don't get. So there's in between that, there's a lot of like, you know, Jell-O commercials and just Albertsons commercials, just silly stuff like that. And then you'll book another big project, like Three Ninjas, who was recasting the character of Colt at the time. And I booked that project, which, you know, was sort of a dream project for me. Because we talked about earlier, me just basically wanted to be Bruce Lee or Jackie Chan, and especially like in the '90s, that heyday of you know, doing your own stunts and everything like that, and booking Three Ninjas just really allowed me to do a lot of like really intricate fight scenes that Power Rangers didn't allow me to do because, you know, there was a whole kind of parents being upset at kids doing violence, so we really didn't get a whole lot of good like fight scene action, even though that's what we're casted to do. But Three Ninjas, they were like, we don't care about that, man. Punch adults in the face. We love it. So we got a lot of cool, intricate fight scenes, and for me, as a kid growing up, that was basically the dream come true, is just to do some cool, intricate fight scenes and stuff like that.
So now you're Jackie Chan. Now you're Bruce Lee.
Exactly. I get to
Yes.
really fulfill that kind of mythos that I thought of as a true martial artist. And then, you know, beyond that, there's basically all of my acting career is just, for the most part, based around my martial arts prowess.
Right.
You know, I've studied acting, I've studied the art of acting, but for the most part, you're going to see me in physical roles, and I don't think I mind that too much. I'm really much more entertained about the idea of bringing a level of emotionality to something that's just traditionally thought of as like, oh, guy gets punched in the face, and then we see.
But
cool
still an art
action
form
scenes.
too. I mean, stunts. You know, I mean, it's almost like a dance. I mean, it's still got to look real. You know, you still got some play there, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we always joke about it. I know a lot of stunt people because I know a lot of martial artists, and the big joke in the industry is, you know, they'll give Oscars for like hair and makeup, but they won't give it for like stunts.
For real, people that are breaking their bones.
Right? Guys that are jumping off the top of
You don't
buildings.
even think about that. Yeah, there isn't, is there?
And they're great art forms, both of them, right? They're separate.
Right.
And hair and makeup takes a lot of research and knowledge in knowing, you know, how to make sure that these things match the time, the period, and the character. But I also think that stunts and action do as well. And when they're done poorly, you see it, right?
Right.
When they're done poorly, you're like, you know, and not to rag on anything, but like you watch a Netflix show like maybe Iron Fist, and you're like, this doesn't feel right. Right? It's because it didn't land for a reason. It's because there's a certain amount of artistry that comes to martial arts, and how that applies to a character. And if you take that as seriously as you take it in acting or hair and makeup or anything else, you can get wonderful stuff.
That was my big complaint about that show. I'm a big Marvel geek.
Yeah.
You know, and
Same.
Daredevil's great, loved it. You know, all the other ones I loved, but yeah, and I love the character of Iron Fist. And I'm like, what? Yeah, that's the one thing that turned me off.
And you know, shout out to all the people who did stunt work in Iron Fist and everything. I know a lot of them. They're fantastic people. They weren't given the opportunity to be able to develop that character from a martial arts sense as they might have with others. But yeah, that's how important it is. And you can see when it falls flat how important it is. But for some reason, when it doesn't fall flat, like when you watch maybe Captain America Winter Soldier and everything lands, all of a sudden you're just like, it's just a bunch of fighting. I'm like, no. It's important, guys.
Yeah.
Take it seriously.
Or you watch a Jackie Chan movie where you're like, this dude is nuts because he's doing it all right there. And then they interview Jackie Chan. He's like, well, what fascinates you about Hollywood? And he says, I saw the dinosaurs, Jurassic Park. He's like, how did they do that? He's like, his mind is blown. Like, dude, you're running on top of on top of a car, jumping onto another car, breaking your leg and doing all this stuff. And then, falling down the hill, and didn't he break his head open one time?
Yeah, several. That dude's a mess at this point. He's just a very attractive bag of spaghetti. I don't even know how he's being held together by duct tape and hope. I don't know.
Well, that's what he said. He said in China they won't insure him. They just blacklist all the guys, so he has to pay the insurance himself because they do such crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And then he's amazed by dinosaur CGI.
Of
Just
course.
Dude.
Just get on there and just jump off something. It's awesome.
Yeah, I actually got to meet him and interview him, and I was surprised how young he still looked and was able to walk.
Yeah. I mean, just with all the stuff that he's done in the experience, I mean, he's definitely one of my idols.
Oh
so
yeah, I mean, me too. And I don't even do that stuff. I'm just boy, you crazy. But that's what makes him so awesome, man.
Yeah, isn't it great?
Yeah.
For real.
Awesome.
One thing that I was wondering is, it seems like you're an entrepreneur. Do you consider yourself one? And if so, because a lot of people, they go into acting, they go into other things and work for other people, but it seems like, you got the school and everything that you do. Could you talk a little bit about that, being an entrepreneur and branding yourself and and funding yourself and doing everything yourself?
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, that's a very it's a very intricate question, and I never thought of entrepreneurism being labeled in that way, but I guess, yeah, what it really came down to is that, when it comes to being part of that Hollywood machine, what ends up happening is that you're sort of, your success is only at the behest of everybody else, and that's what kind of frustrated me, and that's why I kind of pulled back from just like auditioning over and over again and just asking for parts and hoping people cast me and all that stuff. So what I really just wanted to do is sort of just, if I fail, it's my fault. If I succeed, it's my fault. But either way, at least I'm in control of it. So when you ask if I consider myself an entrepreneur, I mean, I just don't know if I can consider myself anything else. I guess I fit that definition. But really with social media and the way it can relate to martial arts, it really allows people to really kind of take that opportunity and just be amazing. And if people recognize it, cool. And if they don't, cool. But at least you're in control of that.
Right.
So really, the whole grand experiment was just like, you know what, I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to show people what I do and what I love, and I'm going to talk about it, and I think I'm good at it, and if they think I'm good at it too, perfect. And that's sort of how it steamrolled. I do a lot of fun kind of martial arts demonstrations online. I do a lot of like historical martial arts explanations online.
Wow, that's smart.
And then all of that sort of built up over the course of the years into me owning martial arts schools, and they all just kind of like swirl in and fit into each other, right? So like, the social media feeds into the martial arts studio, and the martial arts studio feeds into the social media.
I love it.
Comic-Cons and all that stuff. So
Well, here's what I dig is that you're staying to your passion and the discipline. So everything else is kind of just like icing on the cake, right?
Right.
So, and then we were talking before about like a kid coming in, doesn't necessarily have to become the next Bruce Lee or, actor or, Jason Statham or anything like that. But think about it, that if, I'm just getting it figured out. So, but that kid, if he can learn the disciplines and everything that the martial arts teach him, the cultures, the different cultures that he can learn, and then, let's say he becomes a businessman. Let's say, he becomes a tow truck driver, whatever else. His life's going to be at peace. He's, that's where you're given, not so much the acting and all that kind of stuff. So, and then you're still working on being the best that you can be, your passion, and that everything else is, the secondary thing, like the Comic-Cons and all that, and the acting, and you're not have to go, because auditioning is brutal. I do know that. I mean, if you have to rely on Hollywood to make yourself feel centered, then that's not a good way to go, right?
yeah, well, and what we're doing with kids is we're looking to we're just looking to create successful adults.
Exactly.
That's all.
Yeah.
And in a way that I was fortunate enough to get out of the Hollywood machine. I have a lot of friends who were less fortunate to get out of there unscathed with, without anxiety issues and stuff like that. And I attribute a lot of that to my martial arts and my mentors and just everybody being able to keep me grounded instead of just thinking, I was like, oh, I've been in 2 movies. You know what I mean? Like that does a lot for a kid moving on into adulthood. So as long as you keep yourself grounded and you actually associate with people and you connect to people in the way we're connecting here today, like, we're talking as 3 real people too. I was like, you guys are real. I'm not. I'm pretty messed up. Chris is a pod person.
He's AI.
It's not even real.
Yeah, we just green screened him in.
But yeah, so like that's, I mean, that's kind of the goal, is just to teach people how to interact with each other in a way that's passionate. And I hope my passion comes through more so than my bravado, because bravado is a part of it too. Sometimes I'm a little bit of a dick on the internet, and I'm not mad about that, but
Cool with us, man.
this is what it is.
Keeping it real.
But yeah, I always say that passion bleeds through, and if you truly love something, you can tell that person loves it, or if they're just coasting through it.
Man, you can tell you're genuine. Yeah, I mean, we haven't met till today, so I'm like, this guy's cool. We can hang with him.
Yeah, fair enough.
He's
Well,
all
you
right.
two haven't met.
Oh, that's right. I take it back.
Yeah, speaking of which, I mean, we met at a Comic-Con, and it was through a anti-bullying campaign, and I just wanted to say thank you. I greatly appreciate you participating in that. And I was wondering if you could kind of tell people the importance of that and what anti-bullying means to you.
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, I mean, don't thank me for being an advocate for not bullying people. I feel like that's a weird soapbox
Well, you'd be
to claim proud.
You'd be
being proud of,
surprised how
right?
many celebrities would be like, I don't do anything for free,
No,
or
fair
no, or, you know, I'm like, what, really? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I believe that everything starts young. And if you start people on the right path and don't necessarily bully them into that path, but just, you know, put fences along that path so they don't bump out of the way. That's kind of like the most important aspect of things. And what we always talk about in my martial arts studio with my kids is that, especially because we're dealing with physical contact, we're teaching kids basically how to be effective fighters, right?
Yeah.
We also need to make sure that we give them some sort of moral compass, some sort of philosophical outlook on life. They're not using these things to. My job is not to create better bullies.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Make a bunch of Terminators.
Exactly. So what we always say in my martial arts studio is that I create heroes, not villains.
Nice.
So we always want to make sure that we're teaching these kids to do these things, but we're always teaching them to fight for the right things and not necessarily just fight for their own might. And, you know, when somebody comes up to me and they're just like, hey, we're doing this anti-bullying campaign, I'm like, sweet, what do you want me to say? Do you want to write it down? Let me practice it a few times.
And if it was Chris, he didn't. He's like, go.
Yeah, I do remember that. He pointed the microphone at me. I was like, okay, let's do this. No teleprompter? Awkward. Okay, cool.
In fact, I might have met you because he usually goes, here, hold my phone, record this. I'm like, what? So I probably said hi to you. I was just like standing there like, yeah. Look at all the security getting pissed off, and I'm just over there like, don't kill me. I'm just listening to him.
Yeah, so I mean, whenever somebody comes up to me with a cause like that, especially if it's something as silly as like, hey, do you have a message for people who might be bullied? I'm like, yeah, it's pretty simple.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, I'll sit here and say something nice on camera for you. It's not a big
It
deal.
should be the same thing everybody else is saying.
Exactly, right? What is the big deal? What are other people asking you to do? And they're like, no, you need to talk to my agent. You need to tell me. I don't know. Whatever. Anti-bullying is cool.
For real. You'd be surprised some of the horror stories I have that I probably can't talk about.
Yeah, you probably don't call anybody out.
He dragged me into it.
Blacklisted.
I write and draw comic books. I'm not in the public eye. Then I get this guy. It's been downhill since then.
It's like now you are.
Yeah.
Enjoy it.
I know, and look at I'm doing these things now.
Now you're in front of a camera, not just a phone camera.
Yeah, exactly. We're moving up doing this.
I know.
And I still have no idea what I'm doing.
That's kind of how it works, right? Just flip tables and ask questions later. That's what I say.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So that's crazy. So, so when you start doing it, how old were you when you started doing your own martial arts studios?
My dad always taught martial arts growing up, and he owns a martial arts studio in Burbank, California. And then my mentors, Ron Balicki and Diana Nasano, they kind of raised me from the age of about 12 on, and they've always taught martial arts for a living as well. So kind of owning a martial arts studio was something that I knew would always happen with me. It was just a matter of when, right? And I feel like every martial artist has this arc of, like, you know, not only getting their black belt and building a reputation, but I definitely wanted to be a fighter as well and go through that arc. But what ends up happening is it doesn't matter how good of a warrior you are, if you're going to be a lifelong martial artist, you're eventually going to be a teacher. Right. So even from age of 5, I knew my retirement plan was always owning a martial arts studio and teaching, you know, from a chair at 93 years old until the chair died.
With a cane,
yeah, exactly. Just like pointing at people and having students do most of the work for me. You know, that's kind of how it works. That's kind of the process of a martial artist. So, you know, in the last year, my wife and I really kind of taken those steps of, using all of my accumulation of reputation and knowledge and martial arts experience to open up the Ranger Academy in Pleasant Grove. And we've been open since January, closed for two and a half months because of the whole COVID thing. But now we're kind of getting back into the swing of things. In fact, we're holding our second kids testing tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. So we're really excited about. Got like 20 kids coming in to test for their new belts.
Oh, nice.
For experience. We're really excited.
I know this
about
COVID's been really messing with everybody. We just did a beauty pageant last night.
Oh yeah.
And she's like half of her range. She's not doing anything because she can't go out.
Right.
Yeah,
it's
make
like,
appearances.
It's like shouldn't they like give you another 6 months or another year? Just
No,
skip.
that's not how it works,
No,
unfortunately. Yeah, it's the same thing with
I'm losing my
martial arts
crown.
studio.
I'm losing my crown real quick. You're like, oh, that's terrible. You didn't even get to enjoy the job.
No, not at all.
So
Yeah,
that's what, you know. Oh,
yeah, with this COVID that's going on, with that downtime, I've noticed like a lot of people have found the ability to like do more art or do more reading or center themselves more and kind of find out what they haven't had time to do. Were you able to take that time to improve anything on your life or?
Well, I'm always, much to the chagrin of like, let's say my wife or my family members, is I have the luxury of being able to do what I love all the time because I love acting and I love martial arts, and that's pretty much what I do for a primary income. So even when I'm not working, I'm doing what I love. So I'm very fortunate in that regard. I think what having all of this downtime allowed me to do is really just reconnect especially with the ramp up of opening up the martial arts studio. I got to really reconnect with my wife and spend some quality time and understanding of like, hey, we need to make sure that we're committing to our marriage as much as we're committing to our martial arts.
Right.
And although I married martial arts before I married my wife, and we are in Utah, this is a very polygamous relationship for her. So it really allowed me to sit down and just recommit to making sure that I'm not just going full tilt on my passions in the martial arts, but I can go full tilt on my passions of her. We've gone through some fun processes of exploring like virtual cons. For instance, I'm appearing at Legendary Ranger Con on the 27th, which is like a virtual con. I've never done that before.
Yeah.
So people can kind of come in and do like a virtual panel with me where I would imagine it's similar like this. Again, I don't know, I've never done it before. But they're probably,
one way to find out.
I would imagine it's perhaps more interactive.
Yeah.
And they can go into like one-on-one times with me and ask me very specific questions that they have that might not have been answered in the panels and stuff like that, and they have the opportunity to kind of purchase autographs and stuff like that too. I'm also doing on oddly the same day. I'm doing or the day after, I should say, the 27th maybe. I'm doing a live class, martial arts class that you can access online for a company called Martial Masters, and you can either learn to swing nunchucks like Colt from the Ninjas, or to swing the Power Ranger power sword like the Red Power Ranger. So we're doing a few of those, and it's a new kind of medium that I've never done before, and I'm pretty excited about exploring. So
that's awesome, because you already answered my next question. That was like, what's your plans with the way how Comic-Cons are going? How's that been affected by COVID? So it's cool that you can still interact with people.
Yeah, I mean, certainly I love one-on-one interaction. I mean, like, my favorite thing is when people come up to me and they're like, hey, I got started in martial arts because of Colt, or I got started in martial arts because of Power Rangers.
That's gotta be the coolest thing ever.
It's literally my favorite thing ever. And in fact, the reason why I started doing Comic-Cons is somebody, my friend Blake Foster, who I'm hopefully fighting in January, but he convinced me to do my first one, and people were just like so stoked, and it really impassioned me to do more. But these virtual Comic-Cons, I feel like, are just a different medium. I don't think Comic-Cons are going anywhere. They're starting to kind of pick up a little bit more now that things are dying down. But virtual Comic-Cons could be a fun one, especially since people don't have to fly out.
Exactly.
To see it. They don't have to.
I'm two ways of the mind on that.
Yeah.
I mean, it stinks not to have the interaction like
Right.
at Comic-Con, and I have a animator Jonathan that I work with that he's hating it. He's like watching his bottom line just disappear. He's like, because I'm not there.
Yeah.
And but at the same time though, we started doing this like, you know, we're not professionals yet, but better than what we were doing right when COVID hit. So we got one interview out, and then we were just like, but then we learned to Zoom, how to do it,
Right.
you know. And so it's a whole new world now.
I mean, there's a lot of opportunity there, and I mean, I'm sure that there's a lot more people who can fit you into their timelines when they don't have to like fly to Florida to
Right.
Ranger Stop or fly to Salt Lake City for Fan X and see you in person. And I don't think that they're going to be as big as something like Fan X might be, but
Right.
I do think that it provides people with a good opportunity to interact with people that they want to or perhaps admire and ask a few questions. I think it's a great opportunity.
Heck yeah.
Yep. I mean, you don't have to pay for flight in a hotel.
Exactly. I mean, yeah.
And
and
food, meals for those couple
Exactly.
days.
Yeah.
And if you
Waiting
realize
in
people are out
lines.
of work right now too, you know,
Right.
so it's so we
Right.
get more quality time. You know, we got a Zoom interview with somebody. That'd be great, yeah. And the other thing too, like you were talking about your wife. I mean, that's the nice thing about. Well, we started getting into business where we were kind of working for ourselves, so it didn't affect me because for the past year I quit my day job to do what I wanted to do,
Right.
so it didn't affect me a whole lot. But the one thing was it was kind of, you know, I mean, obviously COVID sucks and it's a bad thing, but the one thing was everybody could stop, slow down, kind of reset,
Mhm.
you know, find their their grounding in, you know, with their relationships, their kids, the you know, spouse.
Yeah. Everyone's like, I don't have time. It's like, well, now you got
Yeah.
2 to
Time.
3,
Yeah.
4 months.
Exactly.
You got all the time in the world, yeah.
We just found it all.
Yeah. So on the upside, on the upside of disease,
Right.
Yeah.
I think it really has helped people kind of connect and realize, you know, what's important and what's not important
Right.
for sure.
Yeah. And especially, I'm sure it's been trying for a lot of people. I have a lot of kids and
Yeah.
haven't been used to being around their significant other and their children all the time.
Right.
So
Well,
hopefully,
and you know, for the people who don't get the luxury of being around their kids as much as they want
Exactly.
to. I mean, on the other end of that, that's got to be fantastic. Just to be like, oh wow, I actually get to hang out with my kids now. My job was telling me for so long that I couldn't operate remotely, and can't take that back now, suckers. Maybe I don't want to go into work on Fridays. Maybe I want to work remotely. We know it works.
you're still gonna pay me. Oh, and the internet connection's down. Oh, that sucks.
so strange, right? All of a sudden, all these jobs are like, no, you can't work remotely. Well, turns out we could have.
Yeah.
weird,
The
huh?
new normal.
Yeah, it was crazy. My day job before I quit it to do this full time, they had us working from home. And at first, I was really disappointed and anxious because I liked being around my coworkers. I liked that schedule of, you know, having lunch and everything. But then it was nice too that I didn't have to worry about what I was going to wear every day. And
Yeah, well, I mean, there's something about being in a different place that puts you in a different mindset, right? I mean, I know when I'm hanging out at the martial arts studio, I'm more apt to do martial arts studio-oriented work than I am when I am at home. So, like, there's a give and take on both sides.
I'm laughing with you. I know. I'm like, I'll be at home like, man, I gotta draw this page. I gotta write this. I gotta do that. Like,
Well, exactly.
well, Swamp People's on. Look at the computers.
How many of us have home gyms and don't use them at all? Like,
Exactly.
right? Oh, I'm going to buy this set of dumbbells. I'm going to use it every day. No,
Yep.
you still have to go to that gym and
Oh, yeah.
just get in that mindset. It's just
that's
so
one of the
strange.
things I missed the most was the gym being closed. Once it was
imagine.
back open, I was like, yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, somebody who owns a gym, I completely understand that. I was doing virtual classes online. Thank God for my acting background and my knowledge of like how to at least rudimentary edit things,
Right.
because like that's what I did the entire time was just create Mr. Rogers style martial arts episodes. You can still find them online. I haven't taken them down. If you go to my
wonderful.
YouTube page, you can still find them online. It's very much
We're linking that.
like now we're doing it. Now I just want to do an intro specifically for you guys with me in a cardigan. Just be like, it's a great feeling.
Oh, that'd
A
be so-
wonderful feeling. Just me getting in a martial arts uniform to punch people. Now that we are here.
Done. We're gonna do that.
Yeah, let's do that now. That's my new viral video is a Mr. Rogers style martial arts episode. Just come in with like hand puppets.
Yeah, like,
How are you feeling, Mr. Miyagi?
I'm ready to kick some butt. All right.
Now be careful of those feelings.
Yeah. Don't be a bully.
Ah, God, you guys got the wheels turning now. I think that's.
Oh, we get this is how we
We're
get
gonna do
creative. Yeah, we sit back
We're
and
gonna do it now.
we roll through this. So
This
yeah.
is gonna be the least watched video on the internet, and I'm all right with it.
You know, I'm down.
I know we gotta get us for something. Guinness World Record.
Guinness World
Yes.
Record. We got negative views.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
YouTube subscribers are telling them that they want their money back.
Right.
I'm down for that.
Not only did we demonetize this, we charged you for it.
Right.
That's how you break records.
That's all right. That's how winning's done.
Yeah, you want us to do it this way? No, we're gonna do it this way.
We're gonna do it so poorly that we're epic at it.
This is but I want to cover your MMA
Absolutely.
fighting thing here soon. So, sorry, I'm still laughing about the Mr. Rogers puppet. YouTube hating this thing. So when did you start? So before you opened your school, though, you were already into MMA, right?
Yeah, I think MMA was something that I always wanted to do. When MMA was getting real big, I was sort of like past that prime of to be like, you know, UFC superstar of the world. And it just got to a point eventually where I was like, you know, if I don't do it right now, I'm only getting older, and it's only gonna get harder. So
What age were you then?
I was 30.
Oh yeah.
And
that's like over the hill in athletics.
Yeah, God, yeah, weird, isn't it?
That is weird.
But yeah, so I was 30, you know, and that was like, I mean, maybe you can call it a midlife crisis. I don't know, but like I just knew that
no,
if I
there's
didn't,
more coming. Trust me.
Yeah. Oh, good, exciting.
No, son, nothing. You ain't seen nothing yet.
Oh, there it is. Enlarged prostate. Here we come. Cirrhosis of the liver. I can't wait.
That's why I sit on this donut doing this interview. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. So, I mean, it just got to the point where it was like, if you're going to do it, you have to do it now. Otherwise, it's just never going to happen. So, I made a few contacts. You know, part of being a child actor really helps in getting venues interested in wanting to book you. But other than that, yeah.
You gonna get punched? Yeah,
Cool. Are you a Red Power Ranger? Can we call you that when you walk out? I'm like, yeah, that's fine. So that's how I got started, and then I trained for my first one, and I won, and then I trained for my second one, and then I won. And I was like, hey, you know, maybe I'm actually pretty good at this, and then I ended up becoming a 5-time mixed martial arts champion in 2 separate weight classes, welterweight and lightweight division. At one point ranked #1 in the state of Utah, number 3 on the West Coast. And then we're booking a light heavyweight fight in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, in January with against Blake Foster, the Blue Turbo Ranger. I'm gonna punch my friend in the mouth and make him and make him cry uncle.
I know you were saying that. Yeah, my friend, which I hope to fight.
Yeah. That's what's great about you know, being a martial artist, is that's not necessarily about wanting to hurt anybody. It's it's about athletic endeavor. And I like Blake a lot. I think he's a cool guy, and we've been friends since we've been young. We have very similar looks, so we auditioned for a lot of the same stuff growing up. And sometimes he would get parts, and sometimes I would get parts. But you know, come January 2021, he's gonna get my fist in his mouth.
For all those parts you didn't get.
Yeah, exactly.
That he stole from you.
For all those parts that he beat me out on. Make him cry uncle on tap. Call his mom. That's what I'm looking to do.
Awesome. Well, Blake, we ran over. We didn't even take a break. That's how awesome that was.
Oh,
so
good.
I just want to say, hey, that's awesome having you. We can go for another 2 hours.
Yeah, no worries, man.
So, Blake, when I just called you Blake.
That's all right.
Yeah,
How
what am I
dare you?
doing? What am I doing?
Dare you?
So
Better
terrible.
watch out. You know he's talking to over here.
You guys look so much alike. I'm going to get punched in the face.
Looks like. My word.
Mike. Let me call you the right name. Hey, man, it was great having you here. And anything you want to plug? We're gonna put up all the sites, everything. Everybody can reach you.
Yeah, what's your social media, your Instagram, your Facebook, your website, so people can like, share, follow, comment?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I am all over social media. So if you just Google me, you're gonna find me. But
Michael Lasky.
Exactly.
Not Blake.
Not Blake. At Big Bang Mike _ on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to find me on YouTube, just type in Michael Lasky. My school is called the OMA Ranger Academy in Pleasant Grove. You can find that at rangeracademyutah.com. Otherwise, just follow me on social media so that you know where I'm going and what I'm doing. Like I said, I'm fighting Blake Foster, the Blue Turbo Ranger, in January for Tough Enough in Las Vegas 2021. So if you want to make a trip out and watch me destroy another Power Ranger.
Our biz partner's there. There's a good excuse to go. Let's go.
Perfect. It's a business expense now, my man.
That's right. Yeah, we talked.
So yeah, give me a follow. I give good panel.
Heck yeah.
Well, anything you want to promote, let us know, and we'll put it up.
And
on the
before
site.
you go, real quick, because we were talking about that you're a fictional superhero, but you actually do some charity work, which I feel like makes you a real superhero.
Oh, thanks.
Could you just talk about that real quick before we go?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always open to do any kind of charity work. Regardless, I don't have a specific charity that I work with, but
Okay.
Over the course of the kind of COVID pandemic thing, I've been making virtual appearances at martial arts schools just to keep kids motivated to sticking with the martial arts and perhaps hopefully helping martial arts school owners who are really being affected by the pandemic, obviously, because nobody's coming to classes.
Yeah.
To kids to take their virtual classes and stuff like that. So what we do on these classes is, if you book me for one of these things, I just basically go on and do a Zoom interview with all of your classmates or all of your students, and we offer autographs that they can purchase online that are like personalized and stuff, and the proceeds we donate to No Kid Hungry, which is a charitable organization that helps kids basically get the meals that they would have gotten had they gone to school, but since they're not going to school, they're not eating.
They have to
right?
eat, yeah.
So this charitable organization has been really doing a lot for people all around the United States, and if you purchase an autograph from me, those proceeds go directly to No Kid Hungry. So that's a good way to kind of maybe not only get an autograph from a Power Ranger, but at the same time, help a kid that might need some food. So
That's beautiful.
He is a true hero.
no,
For
thank you.
real.
I'd curtsy, but I'm already sitting. So.